What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Sport Exposure Podcast. As you guys know, we're here to create a safe space for student athletes, past, present, and future, as well as expose our stories, our journeys, the things that we've gone through to get to where we are today. Today, we have the legendary Sam Rines here with us to share his story.
Hey.
Welcome.
I appreciate being here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself they would not know.
Well, I coached one of the greatest players in the world, Kobe Bryant, from 8th grade to 12th grade when he went pro. I also had Rip Hamilton, which he ended up being an NBA All-Star for a couple years. And Kyle Lowry got his start. I shouldn't say got his start, but played for me for a couple years as well.
For sure.
And I had 18 other NBA players, over 300-something Division I players, 600 scholarship players, 40 overseas players. And currently I run a prep school in suburban Philadelphia called Rocktop Academy. And I had Pop Smoke as one of my players at my academy as well.
Wow. Would have never known.
Yeah, I never thought he would be a rapper, but he turned out to be more than I ever thought he would be.
Wow. Well, before we get into it, here at Sport Exposure, our motto is celebrating triumphs and learning from defeats. So when you hear that motto, what comes to mind when you think about your sport journey?
Well, I was fortunate to have a father that coached basketball at LaSalle University, and I went to LaSalle University, and he gave me a harsh reality once I graduated college and tried to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was bringing him a lot of clients because we had a workout program and I wanted to get paid. And he said, no, I'm not going to pay you. You got to earn your own way. And I piggybacked off of his program in order to build my program. And I realized that I can make it a business, not a hustle.
There's a big difference between the two.
Yes. And that's where I see the analogy of both words fitting into what I do and what I'm doing in order to build my brand and my business. And I've been doing it for 30 plus years.
And been very successful at it as well.
Yes.
So I know you talked about your dad. You had your dad to look up to growing up.
Yeah, I had my father to look up to, and he was there. He was there every turn I made. He wanted me to be a teacher. He wanted me to do this. He wanted me to do that. And I had no desire to teach. That wasn't my, thing in school. So, I had to keep taking, when you want to be a teacher, they want you to have a certain GPA. So I had to keep taking classes over and over and over just to reach that GPA. And then when it came down to take the teacher tests, I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a teacher. I want to run a business, my own business. And I had to figure out what I wanted to do. And he had a hustle that he didn't know that could become a business. And I figured that out when the internet first started coming out. I was one of the first people to have a web page and everything else, early 90s, late 80s, I had a web page and, it was a great thing because I had people helping me that really had no interest in what I really did, but they wanted to help me because I was helping them. So it was a give and take relationship.
Right.
And that's one of the first things I learned in life, how you can benefit, get where you have to go, is you have to give to get.
That's a golden rule.
Yes.
So where did everything all start for you, your journey?
It started when I graduated. So I got my girlfriend pregnant and I had to figure things out quickly. So when I was trying to figure things out, I was doing private workouts for $25 an hour, $20 an hour back in the day. And I realized that basketball, I was thinking $1 million business. I wasn't thinking billions like it is today, but $1 million business, trying to figure out what to do. And at that particular time, Joe Bryant, which is Kobe's father, was at LaSalle with my father. My father was a teacher and he had to make a choice between teaching and coaching. And he picked teaching. So Joe Bryant took his place at LaSalle. And that's how we got Kobe into our AAU program and started working him out and everything else. And I didn't really see the magnitude of it right away because we had a basketball program, majority white, but we had a basketball program. And all of a sudden you got this 6'4", 6'5", young kid, 8th grade that's better than everybody that you have in your program, you look at things different because now people are watching you. People are paying attention to you. So other kids want to join the program because of this particular kid. And my father was still thinking hustle, and I'm thinking business.
Right.
So I jumped on that business side early, started my program opposite my father's where I wouldn't interfere with it, but I can make money on the side. So I did a weekend program while he did stuff during the week.
Okay.
And that's how I got started.
Yeah.
Yep.
It sounds like you've leveraged off your connections and relationships from a very early age.
Oh, yeah. Like I got a chance to meet guys like Sonny Vaccaro, Chris Rivers early in life and meet, coaches were lining up to talk to me. Guys were paying me just to set up meetings and,
What did that mean for you in those moments?
Huh?
I said, what did that mean for you in those moments?
Well, it was great because I wasn't making any money. I mean, my first job and only job I had in corporate America was working at Fridays as a waiter. So, you know what I mean? Like when I first got out of school, I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a waiter. So I spent that summer being a waiter at Fridays and learning how to deal with people, talk to people and everything else.
Transferable skills.
By that winter, I was gung-ho. I mean, I only worked maybe 4 months out of the year and I made just as much as a teacher or a lot of other professionals out there. And I was happy.
Trust me, all about it.
Oh, yeah. I was happy.
For a long time.
Yeah, I was happy. And when you make a lot of money when you're young, it's different because now I did things that I wouldn't normally do. I went to Disney World, I went to the Caribbean, I bought cars and I lived that young life, bottle service and hanging at the clubs and everything else that most people wouldn't do unless they were doing something either later in life or doing other things they just shouldn't be doing. But, I got a chance to live that life young. And then I realized that I'd rather be a father to my son, and I took care of my kids. And that was a priority to me.
For sure. That's great. What would you say your most fulfilling moment was? In your coaching career? It could be now, it could be then. I know you're still going.
Yeah, I'm still going strong. I'm actually stronger now than I ever was. But, to be honest with you, it's probably incorporating my son into what I'm doing and still growing leaps and bounds. I mean, when you have growth in your company or your program, you're always going to be proud of not just of what you did, but how you did it. And, people along the way tried to, hate on me and say negative things about me, but they really couldn't because I'm in the business of helping kids. And as long as I stayed in that business of constantly helping kids, they couldn't really say anything bad other than one kid had a bad experience and everything else that would come along with the kid having a bad experience. But, I can't make somebody love you.
Right.
And that's how a coach is to an athlete. You can't make a coach love you. You can only expose a kid. And I'm good at it, but, I can't promise everybody that they're going to be a Division I player.
Exactly.
And everything else.
Exactly. Did you always know coaching was for you?
It was in my heart. I mean, when I played, I coached. So I had a chance to play in the Sunny Hill League. And at every level, I would coach the younger team. So when I was in 10th grade, I coached the 7th and 8th graders. When I was in 12th grade, I coached the 9th and 10th graders. When I was in college, I coached everybody because my father was a college coach. Right. So I was forced to coach everybody. And he used to put me on the worst teams when I played so I could make everybody else better. And it paid off because my teams went far in the States. They won everything. They learned how to win. And to me, it was a tough job because I would argue with my father. Why did you pass him the ball? I'm like, he got to catch the ball. Like, I had to throw it to him. He said, well, you got to know your personnel. And a lot of things I was taught young, I didn't realize until I got older how it would benefit me both on and off the court. Because you deal with certain people, like he told me, you are who you surround yourself by. So if you're playing in the playground with guys that can't play, why are you playing there? Go somewhere else. Go somewhere else and play or practice by yourself.
Right. You mentioned something I want to highlight on. It's a lot of skills that we learn unknowingly as athletes. Just being around the game, coaching the game, playing the game. they transfer over to life after sport that we don't realize until we're going through it. Like, yo, I just learned this. I learned time management from playing ball.
Exactly.
Talk about some of those skills that transferred over into your life after sport. I mean, it's still here, but as far as away from the court.
Well, it's the discipline. You can't shortchange anything that you do in life because it will fall short later in life. And what's on the court is off the court. So my particular team now, we practice 4 hours a day, 4 to 6 hours a day, because we understand that if you work harder than everybody else, you will get more out of the sport. So we preach repetition, we preach teamwork, and even though people say basketball is a team game, it's only a team game when you step up your individual play. So individually, if you're not where you're supposed to be, then you're not helping the team.
Right.
If you're not working hard individually, you're not helping the team. If you don't have a good attitude individually, it's not going to help the team.
Right.
So, from day one, even when I started this prep school stuff, I remember Kuzma, who played for me, he came into the program and, he was a problem child. He had to blend in. Everybody didn't like him because he used to take bad shots. And, I had to talk to him constantly, like, relax. Like, the game is going to come to you just like life. Just don't rush anything that you're looking to do. And, we didn't always get along, but he understood later in life what I was teaching him. And it paid off. He's in the NBA right now. And he was an unknown high school player with issues and problems, just like any other kid trying to make it to the next level. He was able to, use his situation in order to leverage himself. And I think I was the only one that believed he was going to be a pro, because I'm telling everybody, like, yo, he's a pro, he's a pro, he's a pro, he's a pro, and you believe it after a while if you perform.
Right. And as an athlete, I think that's dope that you were that one believer, because a lot of us only need just one person to believe in us.
Yes.
And I have these conversations all the time. And a lot of people say, like, if it wasn't for this coach, I wouldn't be where I am today. And it sounds like you are that coach for a lot of your players.
Well, sometimes I take credit, sometimes I don't. Because at the end of the day, not all kids, is a thing called Johnny Come Lately. And Johnny Come Lately is that guy that comes after you're already working or after you become good, that want to give you a couple dollars or do little things to help you out and want to claim, take all the claim and the glory. I've learned I don't need that, because at the end of the day, as long as I continue to do what I do, there's always going to be the next guy, the next guy, the next guy. That's why I have 300 and something Division I players. That's why I had 18 pros, and I don't need none of that glory. I don't ask them for money. I don't tell them to give me money. If they want to buy me something, I wouldn't care, because at the end of the day, you put in the work. So I can't claim that. Like, you did what you needed to do. I gave you advice. I told you what to do. I was in the gym with you.
Right.
But you think about a relationship. Now the big thing is, I want a divorce, but I want half your money. Were you in the gym with me when I was shooting?
Exactly.
Do you deserve it? And at the end of the day, when you look at stuff like that, dealing with athletes and kids, I think all athletes need to help those that helped him. Period. Like I don't care if the neighborhood rec guy, I don't care if the neighbor down the street, your homies, whoever it is, you don't have to give them a lot, but just recognize them and give them something, or reach out and continue being their friend at the end of the rainbow.
Right.
That's all.
That's a big takeaway, even for myself being a hometown kid.
Yeah.
I learned very early on, because I maybe might have been a problem child for a little bit, but I always treated everybody with respect. Yeah. Like, even from the janitors to my coaches, even if I didn't like y'all, I still try to spin the block. And being home now is just so crazy to see those people that remember those times where I was just nice to the janitor in the hallway.
And they're the people that's going to be in your life forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's funny because I see Kyle and I see the hair, the clothes, and I'm like, bro, I remember I was giving you some of my old stuff. Like, you lived in my crib. Like, it wasn't like you lived in a dorm. You lived in my house. I fed you. You didn't have any money, and and I'm gonna tell y'all the real story behind it. But the coach, my coach that I hired to take care of all the little stuff, him and Kyle got close, and they X'd me out of the picture. Now, any other guy would be mad, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not mad at all because they did what was best for them. And at the end of the day, if the Lord wanted me to have some money and take care of this and take care of that, he would have blessed me, with that money or with that situation. But, at the end of the day, you can't go back and say, well, Kobe didn't do this and Kobe didn't do that, or Kyle didn't do this, or so-and-so didn't do that. I'm still doing what I love to do, and I'm not hard up for money. So
it's a very rewarding position to be in.
Yes.
That you're in now.
Yes. But would I love a Lamborghini truck?
It's coming. I was speaking over you. It's coming.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too.
So coaching for so many years, you've seen different generations come up. And talk about, I'm sure have you ever had to adjust your coaching style?
Big time now.
I was about to say, from then to now, from 5 years ago to now, from 10 years ago to now. Talk about the different generations of basketball that you've had to coach.
The Kobe generation. Well, I'll start off my own generation. My own generation, my father would slap the shit out of me if I said something back to him. So when you go from then to now, these kids talk back, frown, flag you, then they give you the finger if you say something to them that will embarrass them. So what I've learned and how I have to deal with this generation is I got to pull the kid to the side and talk to him firmly and then allow him to be him. Now, if I'm really mad, I'll be like, listen, my little young boy's down the block. No, I'm only playing. But, like some kids will test you. Like, it's not like I never got in a fight with a kid. Like, it's just today's society thinks they can challenge and test you always. But looking back at the kids that I had of late, even Pop Smoke, the first thing Pop said when he came out with one of his songs that became real popular, he said, I want to appreciate you. And I appreciate you. He said, I said, why do you appreciate me? He said, because you gave me discipline to focus on what I need to focus on. And he called me. Like he said he was a rapper. I didn't believe him. I didn't, he called me. I didn't believe him. And I'm like, come on, bro. A rapper don't make no money. And it was hard for me to see because, I'm down Miami at the Super Bowl and he was going in Club Live and he was about to get me in the club. Like I'm sitting in the lobby, like thinking, how am I going to pay this $300, $400, $500 to get into the club? And he was like, I got you. You know what I mean? And that's when I realized, like, yo, this kid is really big. Like, it blew my mind. And even with Kobe, like, when he got in trouble, everybody was calling me. All the news channels, we want to talk to you. We want to, find out what kind of person Kobe was. And Kobe was hard to deal with. He was harder to deal with than some of these knuckleheads because he's one of these kind of guys that I did it all myself. You know what I mean? Not knowing that I was there.
Right.
If it wasn't for your father, me and you, we didn't get along anyway. But if it wasn't for your father, we wouldn't have even I wouldn't even dealt with you. Because at the end of the day, he was stubborn. He worked hard and he was stubborn. So his father used to say, like, you got to listen. And some of the stuff that I told him was stuff that I see later in his life that he was telling other people. So I knew he was listening. Right. He just didn't want to hear it. And I didn't need to take credit for that. Like people say, well, how did you help Kobe? Well, the work of me and him used to play one-on-one and stuff like that. And I used to, see him at we used to go for the work out with the pros, and I worked out with him a couple times. But he was good well before I dealt with him. You know what I mean? He was good in 8th grade. He was a shooter and did this, did that. But when he could have played with other people, he played with us because he knew we had his best interests at heart. He knew we would tell him all the right information. And even though he didn't want to, play on all-star teams, he wanted to play on his team. That's the philosophy that he had. And if you look at like all the major guys currently in the NBA and you look where they came from, they surrounded themselves, and I actually coached LeBron at a camp in Phoenix called Phenom Camp. And me and him talked. And I said, because I watched his AAU team, it's the first time I've ever seen him play. I watched his AAU team play down at Nationals, and I finally got a chance to talk to him at the camp. So he said, how is it coaching Kobe? He asked me all these questions. I said, you're already on pace to do what Kobe's doing. And I didn't know Kobe was going to be so good where I thought he would be that much better, or, because it's always going to be that argument who's better.
Yeah.
And I really believe Kobe's better, but I'm not going to go down that road.
We're not going to get into that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go down that road. But, I said, you're already on pace because you surrounded yourself by your high school team playing AAU, and you already put yourself in a situation. Now, 2 years later, we play him out in Vegas, my team versus his team, packed. Played him in a small gym, but literally packed, 200, 300 coaches there. And I winked at him. Because I didn't want to say anything that I might regret. And I knew he didn't want to say anything he might regret. But it was very personal. And we shut him down. We shut him down to single digits. And he was, a mega star then. Like he wasn't no small AAU guy. Like Nike was there, Adidas was there, everybody was there trying to get this kid. And at the end of the day, I know what I said resonated with him as well. Because then we talked about it a couple of years ago down when he was in Miami. I said, do you remember me? And he remembered me, which was, it made me feel good.
Absolutely.
It made me feel good.
Absolutely. So coaching over all these generations, let's talk about some of the highs and lows of your career. One being African-American coach.
Well, I'm in a business where it was virtually no Black people in the business. Like I started the first basketball academy for prep schools. Now, I was the first Black guy to start the Black version of the basketball academies for prep schools. That's cute, yeah. And the only one that had a basketball academy, and I took their motto, was IMG. Everybody knows IMG. And I took what they had and what they did and made it my version to make it a little bit cheaper, a little bit better. People didn't like that. They didn't like. They didn't like it.
It was a Black man doing it, or they didn't like the idea of it?
And the simple fact that it was a basketball academy and I outsourced the school. So they looked at, you're not a school, you're just a glorified AAU program. Meanwhile, I kept it professional. I was on time, and I had players that were Division I players. So I was spitting out 8, 9, 10 Division I players every year because guys came to me, and I was one of few that did it. You had Redemption, and you had Darryl Schofield and everybody else. And what they did to Redemption is they tried to get him out of business with the Lamar Odom thing. And they did the same thing to Darryl Schofield, saying he had a diploma mill and everything else. But if you look at all these schools, and I really can't speak on Redemption, but you look at Darryl Schofield, and he ran Philadelphia Christian and Lutheran Academy, all the kids graduated. All the kids, you're talking about a diploma mill. He had 25 Division I players in 1 year, and they all graduated. So when you got guys that graduated college and went high Division I, that's something to marvel. And God rest his soul, he passed away, but that black mark really ripped him down. And I was included in these articles because I supported him. And I said, I am at Rise Academy, which that was the name of my prep school back then. And he is not a diploma mill, and the reporter, and I'm going to actually tell you his name because I think this is important, because this is a cancel culture of what people believe. But some of these guys are NBA representatives that at the time were not representatives of the NBA, just trying to build themselves up. And they used these particular articles to build themselves up on the reporting side, ripping down guys that I know helped me start my business and everything else. And I watched this one guy, he's an NBA beat reporter, and he tried his hardest to rip me down, and I wasn't having it. Like, I got ripped down, and he put the article, I think 300 news outlets bought it. I didn't realize that that's what they do. They buy it, and they allowed to report the article across the country. And I was in over 500 papers across the country saying I support this diploma mill. And it was like a black eye. It was a black eye. Like, everybody's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you got wrapped up into it."
Just by saying you support this person? Yeah,
just by saying I support him. And that my name and my name of the school got thrown in the article, and and people like, "Well, you're not a school, you're not a school, you're not a school, you're the diploma mill." I said, "Read the article. I'm not a diploma mill. I'm a basketball academy. I never said I was a school." And I stuck to that. And that's where I built everything else, because now other guys that wanted to get into the business were saying, "Wow, if he can do it, then I can do it." So now it's probably like 300 basketball academies out there that just focus on basketball and outsource to school, because the NCAA came in and they tried to, "Well, you can't take, X amount of credits after you graduate. You can only take 1 or 3. All the rules constantly change to try to put me down, but I was already 3 steps ahead of them, because I started dealing with athletes that had the chance to go to college. And there were years I wasn't that good, but that wasn't the point or purpose.
Right.
It was more or less trying to get a kid in college. And I stuck to that plan, and it worked.
Because when you think about a lot of coaches, a lot of coaches don't help us get in college. They just use it for the 4 years that we're there, and all right, boom. And that's what sets you apart, as I'm hearing, because you actually cared about the well-being of the student athlete.
Yeah.
And we don't
we made sure we had SAT tutoring. And I surrounded myself, because one day Sonny Hill told me, "You are who you surround yourself by. That's why you got in trouble." And he was right about that. Maybe I shouldn't have spoke up for him, but I don't regret it to this very day, because I see these kids who graduated and they're all my friends. Like I have much respect for that.
Right.
They're teachers, they're business owners, they're actually doing very well, most of them. Some guys are still playing. But, long story short, you are who you surround yourself by. And as I got better doing what I do, I surrounded myself by better people, because I was able to sell myself to them, and they helped me raise the bar. And as long as you raise the bar, you can get where you got to go. But if you are content settling for a couple dollars and happy to get through everything, and there were years that I didn't make any money, and there were years where I made a lot of money. Like when I was doing AAU and I was 21, 22 years old, I was making over $150,000. Then all of a sudden I got out of the AAU stuff, because team finals last team was my last team was team finals first team. But Nike wasn't giving out any money. And, it wasn't no EYBL. It was just Nike. And all they wanted to do is give you product. They wasn't talking no cash. So I was like, well, I'd rather just live off that Kobe name and build my brand, dealing with different type of athletes, just athletes that need improvement, not good athletes, but need improvement that can pay for my services. So I changed my demeanor on what I wanted to do. And then when I got tired of it, I decided to go the prep school route, because people weren't doing things right. And I was already sponsoring the other prep schools. So I said, well, I can do this myself. I'll just do it as a basketball academy. And I was able to build it. I fell down, I got back up, build it. I fell down again, I got back up, build it. And that's the way life has to be.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
And talk about some of those moments where you were at your lowest. You fell down and got back up.
I'm in 500 newspapers across the country. And these aren't little newspapers. These are
and that's what I was going to ask you. What was that doing for you mentally?
I was devastated. Business became very slow. People that didn't want to deal with me. They thought I was scamming people, and it was sad because, they threw my name through the mud, dragged me around, spun me around, and I had to get back up. And I had to face these same people and these same groups. Even now, I think I'm being penalized by certain people in New England that was involved with that situation that won't let my prep school in certain tournaments because of those incidents back in the day. And because I don't give them recognition, therefore they're not going to give me recognition. But I'll tell you this, when you have success and you produce, there's nothing they can do to stop you, regardless of how much power they think they have and everything else. Because with modern day social media, Instagram and Twitter and all these different things, that's what my son brought to the table. I was able to show people what I've done over the last couple of years with videos and articles.
The footage, the content.
Oh yeah. And ESPN came in, what is it called? Undefeated. Undefeated came in and did an article just as I was coming back up. And the article wasn't meant to be a positive article. But when this guy saw what I did and was doing, he changed the whole narrative of what the article was going to be about. Because they never heard of anybody like me, my color, running a school or an academy like I did and have some success. And not only did I have success, I had guys going to the NBA. I had guys going high major and doing well in college. And you know how they tell you, like, this is so-and-so from such and such a school. Before they wouldn't even mention my school. They would just mention the last school they went to because they didn't want no negative information behind their names. Like the players were like, I'm, just put Central. Don't put Rocktop or Rise Academy on there. And then actually, since we started doing well, now they're proud to say, I went to Rocktop. You know what I mean? Because they realize it's a positive thing.
Right.
And it's going to help them and benefit them all throughout their life.
Right. And for what it sounds like, staying true to who you are and to who you've always been came with a lot of adversity. And I will say it's one of those things that's easier said than done, but it comes with a lot of adapting and adjusting. And I can relate to that myself because I've always been my authentic self at every level of sport, playing, working. And a lot of people don't like that. But it comes with positivity too. And that's really what they don't like, the positivity that we're bringing to the table. So talk about realizing that you're a gem.
Well, when people realize you're good at what you do, it's because you constantly have people saying that you're good at what you do. So if they don't see it, they won't notice it. If you don't let people know what you do, and you can be modest all you want, and I think that hurt me early in life, trying to be modest and laid back, and I think it hurt me more financially than anything else because I should have found a way to publicly be acknowledged. But when people want to rip you down, and it's been a cancel culture for Black people. Like it's been something like they didn't want to let me in the top tournaments. They didn't want to believe my kids had the grades to get in college because they believed that if you went to prep school, a Black prep school, that you were a kid with no grades, and it was always something negative about what you did and what you do.
Just based off the color.
Oh, yeah. Now I got kids with 4.0s. I got kids with 1,300 SATs. I got kids going to Ivy League schools. I got kids, with higher education. So we changed the narrative, and I still help the kids that has a 1.5 and that has to go to junior college because that kid needs help just like everybody else needs help.
Right.
That kid needs push just like everybody else needs push. Now my phone rings nonstop because everybody knows I help kids at every level. So I'm not dealing with just Division I kids. I'm dealing with Division II, NAIA, junior college. They got some other league called CIAA, something else. And when you deal with all these different coaches, you try to be as honest and as fair as possible. And that's what people respect about me. I'm not trying to sell a product that is not worthy of being sold.
Right.
So when kids come to my program, I give them the blueprint. I give them the blueprint of what they got to do to not just get there, but be successful when you get there. You know what I mean? Like I have a kid now that's at Bowling Green, and he's a 6'8" guard. He's going to make it to the NBA. Like he's an NBA prospect. And, you know, he signed with a big agency, but the coach, you know, he just came from another school. He likes the 3 little guards and doesn't quite know the kid and, you know, wants the kid to play a certain way. And, you know, but bottom line is this transfer portal opens up a lot of doors. And this internet, when people really see how you display your talent, will open up a lot of doors. So if he can shoot and score like no other, and that's what he does, if this guy don't play him, then he knows he has an option to go somewhere else.
Right.
So, you know, people got to understand when people have options, unlike before, you can't stereotype or put a kid in a box anymore because that kid understands the box. And there's people around him that's saying, well, you got options. It's no longer that stick it out, grind it out, and all that other stuff when you don't have to. I mean, and we can say it's good, we can say it's bad.
I was going to say, what's your take on the transfer portal?
Well, to be honest with you, make yourself happy. Because like I told you, this is an individual sport.
Right.
So individually, if you're going to benefit from transfer, you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to go somewhere and sit. Like if this kid's dream is to make it to the NBA, you're not going to make it to the NBA being a 10th man, 9th man, 8th man on an average team.
Right. Do what's best for you.
Yeah, because you can sit at Kentucky, you can sit at Louisville, you can sit anywhere.
It's better and just wait to sit at.
Yeah, wasting your time. Yeah. So, and the hard part is when I'm friends with these coaches, I want to tell them this, and sometimes I hope they watch this, but I want to tell them that kids got options, that it's not me telling the kid what to do. It's the kid knowing that he has options.
Knowing their worth.
Yeah. So when you know your worth, it's like staying in a bad marriage. You know, if you know your worth, you're not going to stay in that bad marriage for long. You're going to find somebody that's going to treat you right and treat you the way you're supposed to be treated.
Right.
And that's the way all people need to live life. Because I think as a Black entrepreneur, I think we were taught early in life, well, it's going to be hard. You got to grind it out and you got to do this and do that. You can't be proactive and you got to just allow it to happen. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's this like ideal thing where we were taught that it's going to be hard regardless. And I don't think it should be like that. And be honest with you. And that's the difference probably between the generations, going back to your original question, where the older generation was work hard and good things might happen. The newer generations work hard and good things are going to happen. And all I got to do is get my information out. So, I'm on TikTok all day, every day. You know what I mean? So I enjoy watching TikTok and watching stuff that I see the kids do, and not just the kids, but the adults.
Right.
You know, and I see how they're benefiting from doing and putting the information out. And like podcasts like yourself and other podcasts that's like getting the information out, they're nothing but positive because the kids don't understand the options unless somebody tell them.
Unless we have these conversations.
Exactly.
Right. Finally, your story. You mentioned your son helping you come out of those low moments. And you gave credit to technology. And we just talked about TikTok and we talked about content and putting the footage out there so they can see you're doing something positive. How did you utilize technology in a positive way for your own benefit? Well,
early in my career, the internet really hurt me. I was one of the first guys to have a webpage, but to Google was not my best friend early in my career because everything I did wrong, if one person complained about it, it wasn't enough other places to put the positive stuff. Everything was negative. So I was in bad business something.com and scamsomething.com and, all because individuals weren't happy with what I did for them. Meanwhile, some of the things that happened to me was one kid wanted a international visa, I-20. And remember, I'm not the school. I'm the basketball side. So the school issued the I-20, but the kid found another school he wanted to go to. He wanted a refund. I'm sorry, I can't do that because now I'm in a situation where you want a refund, but it's 2 weeks before school start, and I still had to pay the lady. I still had to pay the housing and everything else that's involved. And on my website, I clearly state no refunds from the deposits. And that's the negative stuff that went up for me trying to help somebody because he wanted to go to a quote unquote different prep school. And then I had the same problem with another kid. He put me on Judge Joe Brown. That was the craziest thing I ever seen. I was on a Judge Joe Brown show. And the only reason I went on the show was because, don't laugh. The only reason I went on the show was because they paid for the problem before you got there.
Okay. So it was already taken care of.
It was already taken care of. So I had to go on the show because win, lose, or draw, it was already covered.
Right.
So I had to tell my story. And I told the judge the same thing. And for some, I saw the show partially one time in my life. I didn't even see the show, but I was on the show. I didn't even know if I won or lost because I couldn't tell based on how the show went if I won or lost. I just told my story.
Right.
And they interviewed me at the end and asked me questions, but I didn't even know if I won or lost. But this is the crazy part. Well, I won because I didn't have to pay. But the crazy part is Judge Joe Brown killed the kids. You probably can't play anyway because you're too small. Basketball's not your sport. Blah, 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 blah. But, when all your friends see it, it's an embarrassment.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Because now they like, oh, man, you lost. And that's all people care about, winning and losing. They don't care how you play the game. They care winning and losing. And going back to what we talked about, like, you can't live life like that. Life is not about winning and losing. It's how you play the game. So if you play the game consistently where you're transparent all the time, then they can't argue with me. So I made myself transparent. And that's where my son came in because I didn't know how to do that with modern day technology.
Right.
So he showed me Facebook, social media. I had Facebook, but I didn't know how to really put the stuff up there. I didn't know how to attach the articles, now it's
everything,
easy.
The links.
Yeah. Then here come Twitter, here come Instagram, here come this and that.
TikTok.
And TikTok, so now we got TikToks up every other day. We dominating. I got 5 different Twitters with 20-something thousand on each Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, that's my son. That's him. He did that. You know what I mean? So
you knew what to do.
Yeah. So it worked out, even with the stuff. Now I'll make suggestions. Don't think I'm not the brains here, but he's the doer. You know what I mean? And it works out because now he's starting to understand his role as being a leader where I want to step back and possibly retire soon, where he can take over and run the business the way it's supposed to be ran.
How soon are you talking?
Well, if they give me the right property in Miami, I'm ready to retire now.
Uh-oh.
But before I retire, I want to expand.
Okay.
So I want to expand and I'm inclusive. So, I'm looking at different areas. I'm looking at another program in Jersey, another program in Philly, possibly Miami, maybe out in Vegas when they put the NBA team out there. So people want to franchise. This guy from Canada keep calling me. So because they know we do things right and we're transparent about what we do. And if you go on our website, you'll see we don't hide the costs. No, most people got to hide the costs. We don't hide the costs.
Price.
Yeah, because if you're good at something, you want to show people why you're good at something.
And your value.
Yeah, and you show them what your value is. So because you're a Black-owned business, some people want to depreciate that. Oh, why you want to go to him? Well, we play more games than you. We live in better housing than you.
Right.
We feed our kids better than you. We just do things better than most people so they can understand that we're better. And that's why you pay more. And
you get what you pay for.
Oh, I got 5 white kids in my program now. I'm a Black-owned business. You tell me any other Black-owned business that got 5 white kids in your business.
A lot, right.
because people trust what I do and they know I have the best interest at heart. And some of my better players this year are white kids. Matter of fact, I have 7 white kids. And I don't,
That's dope, right?
it's not a black and white thing, but it's I feel good about what I'm doing.
You should, right.
You know, it's like a HBCU having a couple white people at the school playing
looking around like
playing in the colonial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is a feel good thing. And there's nothing wrong with the HBCUs, but you know you moved up a level.
It speaks volumes.
Yeah.
When people
you can
want to
step up
come
leagues,
be a part
they pay
of it.
you more scholarship money.
Right.
More everything.
Right.
So I understand that factor of it. But it took me a while.
So what's the most fulfilling part of your journey?
When I have a kid that didn't even make his high school team play college basketball. And, you know, when you put in the repetition and the hard work and, you know, like some guys might just have to grow, maturity. Some guys might have to take the SATs and pass. Some guys might have to get a higher GPA. All those little things I'm happy about. But when I see a kid like, you know, Kyle might not believe this, but I was happy he made it because of the hard road that he had. I mean, he lived in a trailer.
Mm.
So when you live in a trailer and, you know, you don't have anybody or anything, you know, it's like I said, Johnny come lately, he came late, quote unquote, stole him. It is what it is. I'm not mad at that. You know, he don't see it, but I'm not mad at that. But
You
at the end of the day,
during your time.
yeah, exactly. I know I helped him. I pulled him out the grave. I let him live in my house. You know, so when you help a kid that was on the road to failure, not just once, but multiple times, and then you see he made it, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I don't understand why these athletes don't see that. And I should say all athletes, but some of these athletes don't see it when they came from nothing and nowhere. And if it wasn't for this particular guy, you know, like I heard a story about one of the guys that I know want to be on your show, or you were asking to be on your show, but he would never admit to it. But he got mad at the guy that was helping him out. And the guy, I guess, took more money than he wanted him to take, or he found out that he took more money and he started a business with the money that he took from this particular athlete. Now, I'm not going to say who, but he cut him off. Meanwhile, this dude was smart enough to know that he was going to get cut off eventually anyway. So he bought all these things and, you know, all these, yeah, he took care of himself to make sure his self was straight. And there was nothing he could do or say about it because he allowed this guy to manage everything in his life. This is why you should have an accountant. This is why you should have a lawyer. This is why you should have a tax person. This is why you should have a business manager. This is why you should have a friend that looks over all these particular people that's controlling your life. Because there's so much money out here, not just for the pro athletes, but for the college athletes, for the high school athletes.
The NIL stuff.
Yeah, the NIL stuff we just talked about. So you see where everything is going. And the question is, are our Black athletes ready for that responsibility of managing your own financial life and your own athletic future?
And that also plays into the part, we're not used to seeing that though. Coming from the communities we come from. So we're giving all this money and nobody taught our mom, nobody taught our dad, nobody taught our coaches. So it's kind of like we just let them do what they do and then be mad when they make the decisions they make. But like you said, it's important to have people analyzing every area of life.
And it can't be Johnny come lately because you know how it is. Somebody become good and here come the hustler that can open up doors and you appreciate the doors being open.
Right.
Like you appreciate somebody introducing you to somebody else and everything else, but you can't latch on to the next Johnny come lately. And that's where I think a lot of people go wrong because I'm gonna latch on to him because he can get me in the business. I'm gonna latch on to him because he's He's in charge of the studio. I'm going to latch on to him because he does this. Or he got money, he can let me borrow some money until I got to, get back, on my feet. So I make money, then I just pay him back later. And that's all good. But, there's so many other options out there, like the insurance, the loans, and everything else. I'm not saying do it by yourself, but make sure you have the right people on your team to help you. And I'll tell you this story. So, and this is actually in the book. So the one book was called, I forgot the Kobe book. I got to tell you that later. I forgot the name of it. But it talked about a meeting that we had with Sonny Vaccaro. So this meeting involved Kobe not signing with Arm Tellem, but signing with a different agent because we developed this thing called Team Kobe. So with Team Kobe, it was just like I told you. He had his own publicist. He had his own marketing. He had his own everything. But everybody wanted him to sign with Arm Tellem because Sonny said, if you don't sign this, we're going to take this Adidas deal right off the table because he's the sneaker rep. And you watch these shows, it makes sense.
Right.
They're real. The Son of
We still see
movie,
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real. It's real. It's real. And Kobe ended up signing with Arm Tellem, but some of the guys that we put in his group, his camp, he still dealt with. You know what I mean? So it wasn't quote unquote all Team Kobe, but he took a lot of the Team
faces.
Kobe out that group that we introduced him to. And only thing that got me mad about Kobe is there were individuals. I was young at the time, so it wasn't me. There were individuals that helped him, financially, straight, that he didn't pay back. But this guy didn't need his money. But I think he should have offered it or just offered the whole our aura of being Kobe Bryant and
appreciation.
And sometimes you can give appreciation without giving money and everything else. Like that's one thing Rip Hamilton did for me. Every time he talked about him and Kobe playing together on the same AAU team, which they played for me, he mentioned my name. He made sure that I was mentioned in everything. And I mess with him. That's my guy. Like I got love for Rip. I had love for Kobe, but I got love for Rip.
Right.
Because he was able to not get too big to forget, to not forget where he came from. And I appreciated that. And it may not have helped me at that particular time because it was that hard time I was dealing with.
But it did later,
it helped me overall because people knew that I had Kobe. They knew I had Rip. They knew I had the Morris twins. They knew I had Kyle Lowry. Like they see my teams all come about. And the problem is I didn't have them all at the same time. They came one after the other. That's why I have a nice little track record.
Right.
And I have it at the right time.
Going, yeah.
And that's all you got to do. Keep things going. And you don't know who's going to emerge.
Stay consistent.
Yeah. Like nobody, like I couldn't tell you that Kyle Lowry is going to be a pro when he played for me. He was just a play hard dude. Like he wasn't really a shooter. He was a play hard, get to the rack type player. And Sean Singletary, he made it. I gave Sean up in order to do what was best for Sean to get to where he got to go. Because Sean played for me and I could have kept him, but I said, you know what? I would be doing you wrong or dirty if I kept you on my team, knowing what I have and knowing how this other guy can help you. And if you're doing what's best for the kids, you give up things in order to get things. And he's appreciative. His mom was, the biggest thing, like I told you, God rest her soul, his mom appreciated, and she reached out before she passed away, what I did for her son, because her son made it. He made it to the NBA because of some advice that I gave him and her at that particular time. What could make you more happy?
Exactly. You did the best thing.
Oh, yes.
For him. Right. Do you feel like you're walking in your purpose?
I need to get closer to the Lord. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, I joined church, then I stopped going to church. And, when you get too busy doing what you do and you forget who got you there.
Who gave it to you?
Yeah, and who gave it to you and who made your life easy. Because, I went through a bad divorce and I had to figure out how I'm going to support everybody because she left at the time I was down. So when people leave you when you're down, you feel bad about yourself.
You can't do it.
And I started going to church, back to church, and he opened up doors for me that I couldn't imagine. And, it was hard because when you go to church, a lot of people don't believe in prayer. So when you believe in prayer and you ask for signs and, help me, help me see this, open up that door. I wasn't asking for money. I was asking for survival because I raised my kids. Like my wife left. I raised my kids in my house and with no money. Nobody paid the bill. Nobody paid the rent. Didn't ask her for money and she made a lot of money, but I didn't ask her because at the end of the day, I believed I had an obligation
as a father
to do what I had to do. And don't get me wrong, like I did the whole Miami thing, Vegas thing, and I had my fun when I was making money.
Right.
I should have saved, but I didn't. It's easy for people to help you spend money, but it's not easy for people to help you make money. And I did all that, that stuff. So I can't say I want to go back to the Cayman Islands or go back to the Bahamas and, what am I going back for? I don't have no money to even pay rent. I lost the house.
Priorities, right?
Yeah, I lost the house. I had to live with the prep school kids. And this is how crazy this is, right? I still live with the prep school kids. I got money now. I still live with the prep school kids because now I'm smart enough to say, you know what? I'll live with the kids because I can make more money if I stay with them versus living on my own. Why pay that $2,000 to live somewhere else when I can, 7-8 months live with them and I'm saving money?
I'm gonna keep you on your toes.
The kids are dirty. It's like raising kids because you have to constantly stay on them about making their bed. And I'm more military in the crib because, I got to ask them to do stuff they're not used to doing. So, I'm like, did you make your bed? Who didn't clean the bathroom? Somebody ain't flushed the toilet. You know what I mean?
So that dad hat comes on.
My God, it's the worst. You know what I mean? But I'm so used to it now that it helps me stay disciplined to what I'm looking to do later on. That's why I said I'm looking to semi-retire, but I'm looking to expand and kind of spread, the business to another level where I'm not just helping the kids. And even though most of the kids don't come from my area, I'm not just helping kids in my area. I'm helping kids all over the country to give them the option of going to a good prep school, knowing who's going to help them, how we help them, and everything else. I mean, I got a list of like 5,000 coaches, numbers, emails, and everything else that we send out for not all of our kids, but some of our kids that I know can play college basketball. And that's what I think separates me from my peers, because some guys are just
a network.
Oh yeah, just happy to
your network
take
is
your
your
money.
network.
Yeah, they'll take your money, and as soon as you leave, God bless you, good night. I still have these kids helping. So,
what do you want your legacy to be when it's all said and done?
Knowing that I helped over 1,000 kids get into college. So I got a couple more years to hit the 1,000 mark. And I'm not saying just Division I, but Division II,
right.
Saving money to go to school, watching the individuals graduate and become good people, in life and seeing what they're doing. So, a lot of people call me dad. I got guys in jail that be hitting me up, and, some guys miss the path, but they,
still need assistance.
Yeah, they still need help. I had a dude hit me up the other day. He was like, could you send my baby mom $100? I'm like, bro, I ain't talked to you in, 5 years. Like, he was like, I messed up, blah, 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 blah. I selling weed.
Did you send it? Did you send it?
Yeah. And you know why? Because I love him. I don't love giving money, but if somebody like really, I know in my heart, I'm really helping somebody.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between giving something and helping somebody.
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean? So I felt as though I was really helping him with the $100. Then he was like, "Can I get another 100?" I'm like, "Come on, bro, you pushing it."
I'm making it every day thing.
Yeah, you pushing it. He was like, "I pay you back." So, and that's the hard part, because you have to decipher between those that are using you and those that really need help. You know what I mean? Like, just like if you see somebody on the street, do you give them $5 or do you walk past them or give them the food that you're about to eat?
You never know, right?
You know what I mean? So you got to constantly make those decisions in life, and nobody can tell you what the right decision is. And that's where I think all business owners, all future business owners, all people, not just black or white, but just all people just need to realize that you got to make the right decisions morally,
Even when nobody's
socially,
looking. Yeah.
and everything else.
And just to be able to help people the way that you help people is the blessing that always keeps returning.
Exactly.
And like just helping people, and even helping people when nobody's looking.
Yep.
You never know when God gonna bless you again.
It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like if you're not happy, how are you going to be able to be happy in your life? Happy with your kids, your wife, whatever happens to you.
Exactly.
How are you going to be happy if you don't make yourself happy?
It's almost impossible.
Almost impossible. and you're going to have people that's going to trip you. You're going to trip yourself. You're going to make mistakes. But you got to get back up, get back on the horse, stick to your game plan, and constantly just grind. And then somebody's going to notice, and they'll give you your flowers. I'm happy to have my flowers while I'm alive. You know what I mean?
And you deserve all of them.
Oh man, like it's hard. Like I have to take it in stride, and I smile. I laugh when people call me OG. Like because is such a respectable thing amongst people that do what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I smile because I be like, I'm not the real OG. My father's the real OG. You know what I mean? He put me on the path.
But he bred another one.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I was blessed to be under him.
Right.
And now I'm trying to bless my son to be under me, where he can follow the same, story. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, as long as everybody's happy, you know what I mean? Live life.
Life is short.
Life is short. And you never know when your time's going to be called. So that's why I say, I need the Lord more in my life so I can become a better person all around.
Well, asking you shall receive.
Yeah. I get church.
You get there. We're going to speak it over you. Sunday coming up, you got another week.
Yeah, there you go.
So finally, Sport Exposure, we're here to expose our sports stories, our journeys, and things that we've gone through. What about sports do you want to expose to this generation, the next generation of athletes?
This cancel culture is real. You got to be careful what you say. Like I told you, like certain people in my business didn't want to see me in this business, and they tried to do everything to get me out of this business. But when you're good at what you do, stick to your game plan. Don't get cocky about it. Be humble. Never forgot who helped you get there. And when you get there, reach back and help somebody else. It don't have to be many. It just could be one person, two people, whatever it is. But, don't be afraid to help others get to where they got to go. Because at the end of the day, think about it. You can either donate money to your local community or you're going to pay Uncle Sam. Either way, the money is going to be taken from you. So, why not donate to the local community center? Why not donate to, somebody that really needs your help? And sometimes you might get taxed for it, but understand what you did to help that individual. And that's all really that you can really say.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
I was really glad to be here, and I really admire what you're doing right now, and I can't wait to see some of the past broadcasts. I probably even won't watch myself because I get...
Why not?
You know how you
That's going to be the most important one. So we going viral with this one.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I like just what people do in general. I'm not into just looking at myself or hearing what I say, because I say it every day. You know what I mean? But I want to see what you do, what you did, and what you're going to do And that would make me happy, because if one thing resonated with you for the rest of your life, I'm happy.
Absolutely, right.
You know what I mean? Because now I'm always going to be your friend. You can
Forever,
always
we locked in now.
Yeah, always.
Did I create a safe space for you? Was it a safe space?
Safe space? What you mean?
I was saying, we're here to create safe space for athletes. Did I create a safe space for you?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Okay.
Because think about it. People would be scared to talk about the positives and the negatives, because they're scared somebody might steal something I'm saying.
That's why we're here.
You know, somebody might not want to say stuff that, you know, happened to you in the past. I have nothing to hide. You have nothing to hide.
Right.
And I think if more people were honest with themselves, they would realize the best way to learn is through experience, or from experienced people.
I wouldn't know unless you know.
So if I hear somebody talking and I know they're talking good stuff, I'm going to listen. I'm not going to ignore them and all right, I'm going to listen to them a little bit. You know, and that was probably my problem when I was young. I would hear half of what they're saying. Now I'm all ears. Over here talking to me. This is this, this is that, this. Got you.
They tell us God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Exactly. So think about how many of us never listened to our parents. You know what I mean? Now we know.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And we'll catch you on the next episode, y'all.